Let's go ahead and do a roll call. I'm sure there'll be others that come in a little bit late, so we'll acknowledge them as they come in. Jessica Middle, Larry Jackson, Liliana Welliver, Robin Cowser, Richard Laughlin, Sam Childers, Joe Salinas, Amy Slaughter. So we do have a quorum. So let me start off by reading the chairman's statement. The Historic Review Board is an advisory board appointed by the City Council. I'm David Bullion, Chair of the Historic Review Board. It is the function of this board to consider all applications for certificates of appropriateness for properties in the historic district and for landmarks. In considering whether to approve or disapprove of an application for a certificate of appropriateness, the Historic Review Board shall be guided by City of Fredericksburg design guidelines and the standards in the Historic Preservation Ordinance. Anyone present wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to any item on today's agenda, please sign up on the persons to be heard sheet in the back. It is not necessary to sign up to speak if you are the owner of or representative for a project on the agenda. You will be called on as the case is called. Approval by this board does not take the place of any type of permit. Permit must be obtained for all work. No work of any type is to be started without obtaining the appropriate city permits after a certificate of appropriateness has been issued by the Historic Preservation Officer. So, public comments. The Historic Review Board welcomes citizen participation and comments at all HRB regular meetings. The Historic Review Board offers citizens the opportunity to address them by signing up to speak at the meeting and limits the comments to 3 minutes. So, Shelby, do we have any public comments?
No, sir.
I would like to acknowledge Richard Laughlin as joining us 2 minutes late. Officially. On to approval of last month's, the November meeting minutes. Hopefully everyone has had time to read those. Are there any additions or edits you have? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Item number 6, certificate of appropriateness applications. So we've got 2 items on the consent agenda. Application number 22-111 North Milam, application 22-108 208 East Center Street. The items under the consent agenda are deemed by the Historic Preservation Officer to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion of the board adopting the staff findings and recommendations as part of the approval process. The items on the consent agenda will not be discussed. Any member of the board or the public that wishes to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that that item be removed and placed on individual consideration agenda. Are there any items that either the board or the public would like to remove from the consent agenda?
I would like to remove B.
B. So moved. Application 22-108, which is 208 East Center, will be removed from the consent agenda for discussion. So, for the remaining item on the consent agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we approve per staff recommendations, item A under the consent items.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussions? If so, I'll all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Consent agenda carries with item A, and I like to recognize Jessica Middle, present to the meeting. So application 22-108-208 East Center. Is the applicant here? If so, please come up to the podium and introduce yourself and walk us through what you'd like to do.
Hello, I'm Terry Smith, and this is my home. And we are building a garage because I've never underestimate not having a garage. So we finished our home and moved in a couple of months ago, and now we'd like to complete our project.
Okay. Discussion.
I just really had one question. Since there's a living quarters, does this meet the parking requirement?
Guess we'll look to city staff for that.
It's a two-bay garage, correct?
I'm sorry?
It's a two-bay garage
Yes.
and space for another unit or driving parking spot on site.
Yes, that's why we kind of put it where we did, so we would have a spot to right here.
Yeah.
Any other? All right.
I make a motion to approve the application as submitted.
Do I hear a second? Second by Larry Jackson. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving application 22-108-208 East Center, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Moving on. Application number 22-102, 419 West Main Street. So is the applicant present? Come on up, Brandon, and tell us what you'd like to do.
Sure. Well, excuse me. Good evening. My name is Brandon Weinhauer with SKT Architects. I presented this project last month at 419 West Main. I believe we got most of our items approved, with the exception of the topic of the roof, which was discussed at length last meeting. So since that time, we've done some further investigation. Found out that there was indeed a shingle roof on this structure at one point. It's still underneath the metal roof, and so it is there. We acknowledge that it is there. The question becomes now whether or not we have to come back and put a new shingle roof on this structure, or can we be allowed to put a metal roof, which is also deemed appropriate for this structure. We did a little bit of research into the standards and guidelines, and if you want to refer to Chapter 2, page 2-3, that is the German vernacular building style that I would reference for this building type. Under the character defining features, one of the character defining features says wood shake roofs originally, often replaced with metal during the period of significance. So that being said, I think that's a perfect example of what we have here. Is we had a shingle roof on this structure originally, but in some time in its history, we would think at least in the 1940s or earlier, this metal roof was placed on this structure. So it's at least 80 years old. It's historic in its own right, and we feel that if we were going to replace this roof, that a metal roof would be an appropriate material based on this page right here. If you go to page 1-4, the period of significance for Fredericksburg is 1846 through 1968. We know that this metal roof was installed during that time frame, and so we feel that it's been installed during the period of significance, so it has its own merits, its own historic significance. So the owner is requesting to go back with a standing seam metal roof on the structure, citing this information. We understand that the original roof, may have been a shingle roof, and that is certainly an appealing material. But due to cost, which we've also investigated, it just appears financially infeasible to make that happen and actually allow the rest of the project to move forward as well. Just the cost, not to mention the warranties that come with a wood shingle roof, are just not what the owner intends to. It just doesn't give him a comfortable feeling. So the standing seam roof would be a more economical roof, a longer, more durable roof system, and we feel also period appropriate. I believe there's a couple other things that we introduced on this application as well, and I can talk about those, and one of them being the fence that he wants to add along the front of the property right here. Right now, we currently have a wood picket fence in front of the property. He's proposing to come back with a stone fence, which is a little bit more substantial than what's there now. But he wants to kind of tie it in with the fence that's on the east side of the property, that masonry fence with piers that runs along the east side. And so we're not, that one's currently a plaster masonry wall, and he would like to, embellish it a little bit more on the front and use stone in lieu of a plastered masonry wall. I realize our wall heights are a little bit higher than I believe what Anna cited in her recommendations. The reason we did that was because of that wall on the east side here, which is about 4.5 feet tall. And so Kevin was proposing to would like to create a pilaster to kind of end that wall. And so that's where the height came from, is a 4.5 foot high pilaster, with the main portion of the wall being 3.5 feet in between those pilasters. So again, I understand that the board's or staff recommendation is to lower the height of the wall to 3 feet. I think I don't have any issue with that, but I'm curious as if the pilasters could exceed that height with overall height of the fence being 3 feet. And I think the last item was the safety glass on the back window. Just again, life safety issue. One of the windows on the back corner is within 5 feet of a stairway or a proposed stairway, and so I'm recommending to the client that would be, those panes be safety glass. It's certainly his choice whether or not to follow through with that, but that'll be my recommendation. So we just wanted to get board approval that was acceptable, since it's not facing Main Street, and we have that ability to do that if needed. So.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
So board, questions for the 3 items?
I have a question about the roof. Since it is, y'all are stating that it is significant to the time period that it came from. Why are you not proposing it be the same color?
Well, I think the original roof was not painted. It was painted sometime later in its life. So it was originally a galvanized, V-crimp roof. Kevin said at some point down the road it was painted red. So that's not the original roof color.
Okay.
We are proposing to come back with a Galvalume standing seam roof, which we feel be appropriate. It's just, I think it's more of a color preference. He prefers a Galvalume versus a colored roof on the structure.
And my other question is for Anna. And is there any documentation of how long this fence has been, this picket? Like, is there any photo documentation of?
I believe Kevin's father built that fence. It's not a historic
not a
fence.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect.
I want to emphasize again that standing seam roof, we would be doing the detailing that would be historically appropriate as well. So hand crimped ridge and seams, not a ridge cap.
And last meeting, the thought was tossed around as far as having the porch be wood shingle only. Is your client still?
The owner's preference would be to go with a consistent roof type on both porch and the main house.
since I was absent last meeting with COVID, a couple of questions I have for that, for
Sure.
the application. So presumably, if you were allowed to go with the metal roof, it'd be a hand crimped bridge that would be more appropriate, presumably.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The stone wall that you're talking about, is it the east side boundary that's already there?
Yes, that's
That-
already existing.
And the posts, the pilasters are what you're talking about?
Right. You can see
keeping it-
we have an existing photo, I think, a little further up. There you go.
That
So
one.
that's the existing pilaster that exists now. He's proposing to tear that one down and actually put a stone pilaster there. So the new pilaster would be a little bit lower in height than that one is currently.
There's not much of an elevation change there, is there, going from east to west?
No.
Unlike a couple, down one block at the Pioneer Museum, there seems to be a really
There
big-
is quite a bit of elevation change there too, and I've looked at that as well because it's a similar fence style. It does vary, I think, from about 3 feet to 4.5 feet down to towards the
but not at
Conway
this
house.
location.
Yeah,
And then the last thing, item C, replacing that rear window. Is that original glass? It's presumably original glass, original.
it appears to be.
Yeah.
And so
Is it
we
possible
will
to
look at other alternatives
Yeah,
in,
is it
on the
possible to
interior
space
as
it
far
out?
as shutters or
Yeah.
something like that to try to avoid replacing that glass. It's also going to come down to cost too
Right.
from the owner. What is the most economical, feasible solution here? But we will certainly look at those options before replacing that glass.
It'd like be easy to put some shutters interior.
Right, interior
For the
shutters
safety
is,
side.
is something we would consider. I just wanted to get the board's approval on the ability to change out those panes to safety glass if we could not find another alternative that would work on the interior.
As far as the shingles, I think we had a very similar case, Brandon, at St. Mary's Church. They wanted to go back with a less expensive material, and this board found that because the historic evidence indicated that the shingles were there originally, and they didn't have any evidence of a different product. That's how the board ruled in the past.
Okay, well, we have another roof on there now.
But you're not
That's
asking
been there
to keep V-drain on there. You're asking to change the style of the metal roof.
Right, going back with a better quality metal roof.
Right, but
Yes.
it's not the same.
Do you want us to go back with a V-crimp roof?
I think that's what's
The
historically
owner's
there now.
Preference
That's
would
going to
be
be
a
cheaper
standing
if you're
seam.
worried about budget.
Right, that is true. But the owner's preference would be to replace it with a better quality metal roof. That'll give him the longevity he wants versus an
Right.
exposed fastener system.
I would
and
agree
creating some
totally,
issues.
but we don't have any evidence of a standing seam roof ever being on this building.
Right, but it's a metal roof.
So-
I realize we're talking about 2 different metal roof systems. But his preference would be going back with the standing seam because it is period appropriate. Even though it did not exist on this house, it's still a period appropriate roof system for a building of this type. Which is what we've done on countless other projects.
Other discussion? Other items? There's 3 items
Just have a
here.
question, Mr. Chair. If this was approved and you were to replace the metal roof, would it just be laid over the original historic material?
No, that is historic material be removed
Okay.
to make for a better installation condition. Yeah,
Would there be any plans for that historic material?
we would look at alternative to utilize it elsewhere on the site, not for the main roofing system, because I don't think that those shingles could be utilized for a actual functioning roof system, but perhaps on awnings in the back or a garden shed of some sort, perhaps. But yeah, as far as utilizing them for a roof system, I don't think by the time they get removed, they're going to be able to be reused, especially considering the metal roof that's on there now and all the penetrations that have been made on it. So,
Thank you.
Brandon, I think that the fence is fine. I don't have trouble with the fence, but I really think we need to go back to the shingles. I really think that's important. And this tin roof you have on here now, metal roof, and the metal roof you're thinking about putting on, if neither one of them, wherever part of this history of this house, we need to have the shingles. I think.
Well, I can't find any evidence in the guidelines and standards that says it has to go back to the original roof. I see that it unless the shingles was the roof system that's currently exists on there now and is the functioning roof, that I understand that if we're replacing it, we have to go back with a wood shingle roof. But if for the last 80 years it's had a metal roof on it, to me, if we're replacing that metal roof, going back with a metal roof is still appropriate and not having to go back to the original roof structure. I think that's setting a precedent for every project moving forward. If they find evidence of wood shingles under their roof system, are you all going to be asking them to go back with a wood shingle roof?
I think that's the point of what we're trying to do. My opinion.
There have been ones that have been did go back to same over shingle. You're not asking to go back with V-drain.
Sorry, say that again. I can't understand.
You're not asking to go back with V-drain. You're asking to go back with a different material, with a different fabric.
Our first choice would be standing seam. Second choice would be going back with a V-crimp. If that would get approval, that would be our preference versus going back with shingles. Simply the cost and the warranty of that system are more than what the owner is willing to take on. He wants to make this his residence, which is what this building type was historically used for. And he wants to utilize it as his primary residence, something we don't have very much of. Seems like these days everything's becoming rentals, vacation homes. He's wanting to make this his permanent residence, and to do that, he's willing to restore the windows. He's clean the stone and do as much as he can for this historic house. But at the same time, he needs to make it livable. And it's not a museum, it's his residence. And I think going back with a metal roof is going to give him that longevity he wants and be able to utilize the house like he needs. I don't know if he will continue the project if he is required to put a shingle roof on here. I just don't know that. He's got other options of things he can do, and the house may sit idle if he's not able to do. I'm not trying to sway your decision by that, but that's something he has mentioned to me prior to this meeting.
So Brandon, I didn't see it in the exhibits, but did you do some pricing? You said it's a price difference, but we've not seen that in comparison. And did you also price real wood and a composite material?
We have prices for a standing seam, and we have prices for fire treated cedar shingles. We did not get a price for the EnduraShake. This particular company did not use EnduraShake, so we didn't get a price on that. But the standing seam was about a third less. Actually, the wood shingles were 3.5 times the cost of the standing seam. So standing seam was around $13,000. The shingles was around $45,000, and that is with the underlayment, the breathable fabric, and everything required to get the most longevity out of your shingles as you could. At the end of the day, it won't last as long as a metal roof.
With all due respect, Dan, are we supposed to consider price now in our decision?
You can take it in consideration, but you don't. It doesn't have to be the determining factor for you.
We have to take it under consideration. Our client does. So I understand that you are looking at historic aspects only. I realize that, but we can't. We have to look at everything, and you know that too. In the field you're in. So
I guess my perspective on the roofing system is that obviously it originally is wood shingles. It's evident because it's underneath the existing roof. But the age of the existing metal roof has some significance as well. What's the oldest record you have, photographic evidence?
we have a picture from 1956 that still shows the metal roof on it. We also believe that it was pre the 1940s hailstorm because there's evidence of large hail indentations across it. So we feel like it's at least 1940s.
Any idea when it was painted red?
Kevin might be able to answer that. I unfortunately do not know that answer. I believe it was 60s, 70s, somewhere in that time frame.
Any choice to abandon that as just aesthetics and personal preference?
He prefers the look of a galvalume standing seam roof. Also, it's just going to tie in with the look of the addition. It's also going to be a galvalume standing seam roof, so it just ties it together a little nicer.
Thank you.
Apart from the issues on the roof, what about the other two items? Unless there's some more discussion on the roof. There are two other items on there.
Like I stated, I don't have any problem with the fence, because basically it didn't have a fence maybe 20, 30 years ago. So.
I don't have a problem with the fence, and I also, for safety reasons, and because it's on the back side of the house, I'm fine.
What about the height of the fence? Because it exceeds our regulations, so we would have to have a variance. Just as a reminder on.
Does it impede your view of the historical aspects of the residence? I guess is where my question would be.
There's probably 6 inches. There's probably 6 or 7 inches of slope across there, Brandon. Huh?
Yeah, I would say something about
So if you run the fence level, it would probably meet the requirement at
on one end.
at the west
Right.
end.
Yeah.
Which is what we did at Historical Society.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with that.
When I drove by it a couple days ago, that's what I noticed, and there's a little bit of elevation difference. It's hard to hide.
I'll make a motion to approve parts B and C of the application.
I'll second that.
Got a motion to approve items B and C of application 22-102. Any further discussions on the item B or C? B, the stone wall height, stone wall of the front of the property, and the replacing glass and roof. Further discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion to approve items B and C, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Which leaves us with item number A, replacement of the existing roof with a higher grade metal roof system. So it's up to you guys how you want to handle it. Motion, discussion, whatever.
I have discussion for Brandon and Richard. The big roof that's on it, in terms of performance and longevity, how does that compare to the standing seam that you're longing for?
Well, the current V-crimp roof has exposed fasteners, so that's all of those are potential leak areas. The standing seam has more of a concealed fastening system, which I think would perform better against leaks. So that's one of the main reasons that we prefer to go with the standing seam.
Another question for you guys, for Richard. The existing system, the height of the connections compared to the standing seam, do you know the difference?
About the ridges of the
Ridges,
seams.
Yeah, 5/8 versus 4.
Yeah, inch.
It's a double B.
Yeah, so the standing seam has what 1 to 2 inch seams. 1 inch, I think, is probably most appropriate, but it allows you to, fold it down and tuck under and hand crimp the ridge. Again, it was a common roof system of the period in which this house was built. So,
To Brandon's point, though, this roof has been on there for 80 years, so
Right.
the B drain.
I feel like it's maxed out its lifespan.
Yeah.
Probably a few years. Great, what do you guys want to do? Entertain a motion for further discussion.
I'll make a motion to give the owner the option of going back with standing seam roof, red, or wood shingles, their choice.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Were you thinking that the red is again historic in its own right, and that color should be retained?
That's what's there. We don't have any pictures with it not red.
I think one of our historic photos from the last go around might have shown it without being red.
May I ask for a point of clarification on the previous motion? You made a motion to approve items B and C. Was that approval per staff recommendation or as presented?
And the,
That one.
just for
The next
clarity,
one.
the current motion that Richard made and Larry seconded. Can you reread that just so we understand?
Yes, sir. Richard Laughlin made a motion to recommend a red standing seam roof or wood shingles, seconded by Larry Jackson.
But the question, since we're still in discussion, so if they can find a picture that doesn't show the red roof but it's metal, would that change any views or not?
Okay. We have historic evidence, yes. In my opinion. There's one that has
What do
wood.
others-
This picture clearly shows the wood shingles.
What is the date on this photo?
I believe I have an email from Evelyn, but I can't recall off the top of my head. I'm sure there were photos of it with shingles because we see evidence of a shingle roof under there.
Yeah.
That one
I don't know if that one you can tell clear enough.
You can get that picture from the paper, obviously. Do something.
That was an Lisa Kohler article. She has another picture, I believe, in her book. I'll have to look at that and see if there's any evidence there that looks like it's not red.
When was that paper? What year?
That's the one, I believe that was from 1956. This article. So what
50.
happened? 56.
I guess that one's obviously a black and white photo, but
It still doesn't appear. It'd show up dark if it's red.
I think it would.
I think.
So is that evidence that
I think this photo's from '56.
That's what
Lisa's books.
Lisa's book was, I think, in the 70s when she wrote the article for the book. But she felt this newspaper article was earlier.
right? Basically, the book was just a composite of all of her newspaper articles. So there's no telling
So
when
she
it
felt it
showed.
was somewhere around 56.
The article or the photo?
The article.
No, the house would have been 91 years old.
What was the date of the house? When was it on the books for construction?
Well, looking at 65.
Yeah, she could have used an old picture too.
Right. But at least in the time of the newspaper article, the house was 91 years old. And what does this house date back to, Brandon?
Roughly the 1860s.
1960s, okay. Yeah, that's right. Around that time. So does this count for the picture of the house with the metal roof without color as evidence or not? That's a real question.
I think contrast.
I don't remember.
It seems like if
I
it
think-
were red, it'd be a little bit darker
Yeah,
on.
I think that's a good point.
Sorry.
And the latest the picture would have been in the 50s. The latest this picture would have been taken.
1950s.
All right. Can I withdraw my motion? Or we need to let it
You
die?
don't have to. We can vote it. It'll either pass or not. So it appears that there is photographic evidence of a metal roof that hasn't been painted. So just keep that in mind when we have a motion, we have a second. So let's go ahead and vote it and see if it dies or carries. So please reread the motion just for clarity.
Richard Laughlin made a motion to approve the replacement of a red standing seam roof or wood shingles, seconded by Larry Jackson.
All those in favor of approving that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So that gives a
4-2.
4-2. So that motion carries.
Just to be clear what that motion carried was.
Please reread the motion.
Red roof or wood shingles. With no opportunity to find any more historic evidence.
Since the motion's carried, we'll move forward with that. If, as far as the appeal process, if they do find additional photographic evidence, what would be the best way to,
If he finds photographic evidence, we can bring it back.
and then resubmit, correct? Okay. So I would definitely encourage you to look through the records and get a bit more clarity on the history of that metal roof and the color of it, maybe some documentation of when it was painted potentially. There's probably records somewhere. I know this is what a fifth generation
Right.
property,
Right.
so
Yes.
somebody's
Yeah.
going to know something on it. So
Yeah. So far, the only pictures we've been able to find are the ones that we provided in the last
right,
submission. But we'll keep looking.
a little bit more digging. So.
Right.
But
I think the interior photo shows everything that we need to know. Quite frankly, that there were shingles first.
thank you, Brandon.
All right. Thank you all.
Then based on the shingle, the roofing that's on there now, that's your other option. That's just where it is.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all.
Great. Item number D, moving on, application 22-110A, 413 East Main Street. The applicants present, please come up to the podium and introduce yourself and walk us through what you'd like to do.
I'm Nikki Heiner. The client is, I'm representing the client. The client's also my sister. So this is a two-part application process, I believe. So the first part is the house, second part is the short-term rental. And just to make sure, so there's a lot involved. So just so y'all know. And I apologize, I do tend to talk really fast. So if you want me to slow down, just give me a signal, something. So this house was originally purchased by my father in 1990 and has recently been repurchased by my sister in 2020. And so from here, we are wanting to restore this house a little bit better than what it looks like now. So with that, there's what we would like to do to start off with is just, of course, we've already are pulling off, we pulled off the shingle siding or the siding, and there is the 4-inch slat that's on the behind it. So we've already done that portion. We've got our certificate of appropriateness to do that. And so beyond that, what we're working through is that the driveway is see, there you go, I'm talking fast. Okay, sorry, I'm going to go through so I can follow along with what y'all are seeing. So part of the problem is that our electrical panels are located in the driveway. The adjacent house at 411, their electrical panels are also located in the driveway. This narrows that driveway very, very much. And growing up there, my father in his Suburban would say, roll down the windows and pull in the mirrors so we could get through. That was every day. Also, with that, we are wanting to relocate those panels to the opposite side of the building where it's clear, you have life safety clearance going through that driveway. A window unit we're going to be getting rid of and putting a better AC unit within there so it's not hanging out the side window. The metal roof has quite a bit of damage to it. There's some leaking, so we'd like to replace that roof as well. The antenna, I don't think it's historic, so we'd like to get rid of that. There's also a front fence and archway that is not original, so we'd also like to get rid of that as well. We are, so along with this, let's see. Part of the front view is there was originally an additional door on one of the porches. Sorry, I'm jumping around for you. And we would like, right now it's a window unit. We'd like to replace it with a door. And unfortunately, the only picture that I could find of it is a picture of my dad painting that door. So with that, we'd like to replace, put that door back to the original location. So let's see. And I think originally my request in the application is to put a door on both ends. And I believe from the interior, what we were able to discover is that there was only this one door that you're seeing them painting, which facing the front of the house, it would be on the left porch. And so we're only going to be asking to put it back on that one porch. See, so for the, let's see, we are also asking to, the porches right now are sagging and deteriorating. The concrete was kind of just like a really thin poured slab, and it's cracking and sagging. So we're asking to kind of re-pour it, do it correctly, and tie it in. There is quite a bit of leakage and rotting boards. We'd like to replace those. There is some rotting of the existing porch posts and railing. We'd like to go in there and redo it with some wood posts and get that all nice. We are also asking to remove the Texas Star porch trim from Home Depot that my dad added. And we'd like to do a gingerbread trim that is similar to what is happening on the house at 415 and 411 on either side of us, just to be more appropriate with everybody else around us. We are also going to be doing new paint. It desperately needs it. As well as new exterior light fixtures. Let's see. We're going to be maintaining and repairing all the existing windows and doors that are there. There are some cracks. I think there's a family of raccoons living in the basement. So we're just going to be repairing all that and making it a lot nicer. Let's see. There is on the back of the house, there is there's an enclosed porch that was never tied in correctly, and it's sagging. And so we are looking at ripping down that whole portion because it was an addition, and actually squaring off and tying it in a lot better to the roof lines as well as the siding to tie it in. Let's see. I'm trying to keep track of where you're at. Okay, here is we're showing a view of what that addition would be. It's the shorter roof at 11 feet ridgeline. And so one of the things that we've come across is that the width of the driveway is very, very narrow. And even so I mentioned the story of my dad with the Suburban. It was very, very tight. And I do have a picture in this presentation of my Dodge truck, and you can barely get out of the doors coming down the driveway. So it's very, very tight. And so one of the big things that we're requesting to get your approval on is to actually move the pier and beam portion of the house 3 feet to the east to allow us to have a wider driveway. And part of that is so right here, it's very, very tight. It is a life safety issue. The adjacent house at 411, like I mentioned, their electrical panels are there. They've got a gas meter. They are also storing propane in the driveway. And since it's a zero lot line, it is right there. And so we'd like to move at least the pier and beam portion 3 feet east. A back portion of the building is Bassi block. And we are looking at two options of either disassembling and reassembling 3 feet over the entire thing, or leaving the Bassi block where it's at, and our driveway will jog a little bit. But so with that, I guess the pier and beam portion of our house and the adjacent pier beam portion of the neighbor's house all align. and that's the narrowest part. Their house does not have a back portion like ours does, and so once you pass the pier and beam portion, it opens up. There's and then I believe it's about 10 feet to the next building. Let's see, I don't know if she has 65, I think. Yeah. So you can, let's see, at the Buddy Love 411 East Main, so the pink portion, that's their pier and beam, and then it's about 10 feet to the first building. So there is some room there. It does kind of open up. So anybody's side mirrors would be able to easily go by. So yes, I know that's a very, very big request. So we would prefer to leave the Bassy block where it is to maintain and not, it's a huge expense to move it, first of all, but also just, it's so, it can get broken pretty easy when you start disassembling. So we'd love to leave it where it's at. Let's see. Currently, with that Bassy block, with the adjacent properties being built up, there is a lot of runoff, and so our basement is actually starting to flood. And so we are, that's the other part of this project, is just trying to get the runoff of all the water to go in the right direction and out of our house, and evict those raccoons that are in the basement. So with that, we're going to be doing French drains, some impervious paving to get that driveway and that water going where we need it to be. Let's see. And so with the project finishes, we would like to do, again, the gingerbread trim just around the detail of the porches. The metal roof, we would like to maintain a standing seam metal roof similar to what is there now. The porch and the porch post would be painted white. The house, the general paint color would also be, it's a light gray, and the accents of the scallops at the very peak, those would be a purple. And unfortunately, since the adjacent person is like a pink house, we were trying to be more appropriate of just not clashing and having it be Clown Town down there. So that's why we're only going to be doing the purple in certain portions of the building. Let's see. I believe that's it on the finishes. The photos of the neighboring property, just to okay, I think that jumps into the next. Okay, I think that's it for this application. I'm sorry.
Great, thank you. Anna, you want to run through your?
I know you'll have lots of notes.
All right, so this is 413 East Main Street. It is in our central business district, which does allow for 0 lot lines. It is a medium rated structure. And I've been working with the applicant for a year and a half, maybe 2, I don't know. Yeah. COVID, times irrelevant. But for a while, and obviously they've taken the siding off, the asbestos siding, to expose the original and kind of be able to see what changes were made as far as the windows and the doors. So I commend the applicant for doing that work. But there are a lot of details, I think, kind of lacking in the application for me to feel very confident in making some very certain recommendations. So overall, so items A, B, H, I, and J are based on relevant sections of the design guidelines for porches, roofs and landscaping, walls, windows, and doors. And those types of things could be approved by staff with sufficient documentation. The items that I think the board needs to discuss in detail would be item C. If there's any type of evidence that the house had previously had gingerbread trim, the request could be considered. Otherwise, this request is not in keeping with section 3.25B. Item D, the property has CBD zoning, which allows and encourages a variety of commercial uses. CBD zoning allows the building to be built on the lot line. The 400 block of East Main Street was historically a residential block and is now being used for commercial uses. The lots are deep and narrow, and this lot in particular has very limited access to the majority of the lot, which is behind the house. While the request to move the house to the east would alter the original development pattern, the request makes the property more usable. On this block, the most important setback is the front yard setback, and there's no request to change this one. The pier and beam house can likely take place without removing the pier and beam house can likely take place without causing much harm. The Bassey block rear addition currently leaks, and the applicant is proposing to either dismantle and rebuild the addition with the main house or keep it in place and address the water infiltration issues. Item E, the existing rear addition is an enclosed porch and staff recommends the removal. Item F, more information is needed on the design, including the roof line. Item G, if it's decided that infilling the basement is the best approach, staff recommends the window be retained but covered from the inside. Item K, more information is needed on the condition of the Bassey block tank house. I don't think we've discussed that in your application. And then more information is needed on the barn, the age of it. But if it's not historic age, staff recommends dismantling it. And just to clarify, she did provide a photo today of where the front porch was previously, front door, and also the drawing for the rear elevation, including the proposed addition. So that's new information that was provided this morning.
Is there any photographic evidence for any of the ginger trim, infrared trim, or?
So I've talked with Evelyn a lot. There is no photos of this house. There's photos of the one adjacent to it on either side across the street. For some reason, this house is like a ghost. There's no evidence. So the only evidence I have is when my parents were painting it peach. So with that, that I do not believe that there was gingerbread. It's not. We were just trying to be more appropriate to what's happening on either side of us. That's why we're proposing gingerbread trim. It's not a make or break thing. I would love it if y'all said yes, but it's still going to be beautiful being able to take down the star trim, but it's still going to be beautiful. But if y'all don't think it's appropriate, that's okay.
Yeah, unless you can provide some evidence, some ghost mark evidence from trim that you take down, that you find some
There's
or
not.
some historic, some photographs, then it's usually not allowed.
Yeah, okay.
Other items. We got a lot to get through here.
Yes, there is.
Just for clarity, Anna, it sounds like items A, B, H, I, and J. You still needed a little bit more information on those?
Yes, the photo that you provided this evening for the front door, and you said you're not planning on
Not the one on the right porch, only the one on the left that you got
the photo for.
The photo for.
And so you're going to replace it, or you're swapping out a door and a window?
So right now it is a Patrick. It's just slapped with a window unit, right? It's not a window, is it?
So that covers item A.
There's a window. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So with the window, that would be removed and the door would go back.
Replace it. So
And I
that's item-
believe my dad still has the door.
So that covers A.
Yes. So you're not talking about changing the existing doors on the...
No. That's the door on the right you can barely see. That's going to remain.
Okay.
So
It's just where the window unit is. That would be a door.
right. So basically returning the door to its, changing the window to the original door.
Yes.
On the other side, on the east side, you keep it as is.
Keep it as is. I thought when we had put in this application that there were two doors, and after going through the attic and tons of photo albums with my mother, and it's like, oh, it was always a window. There was no evidence to show that it used to be a door. So it's like, okay, we know that we wouldn't get approved for that, and it's not appropriate. So we're only asking for the one on the left porch. This one is the east, yes.
This is the east side.
Yes.
I would like clarification on the Massey part. Is that the part that you're either suggesting leaving in place if the rest of the house shifts, leaving it in place or tearing it down?
Those were our two options.
Okay.
And so, of course, one, as you know, is going to have a lot of expense and a lot of breakage. And the Bassy block is beautiful. I would love for this driveway to have 3 more feet, naturally, but it's just not the case. But yes, so right here, so it also has a basement. That's the other kicker on this, is that it's a single bedroom with a basement below, and we would love to leave it where it's at. It's just it's going to be a huge expense, and just what we would have to replace would it be very sad. So I think leaving it, repairing the windows where the raccoons are getting in, and fixing the water problem. We'd love to just focus on that and leave, and not. I'm really asking. It's okay to move the pier and beam, but leave the Bassy block is what we're asking.
I don't recall an example of anyone ever moving Bassy. You done it? Easy? Easy peasy.
It's not easy.
Okay.
Yeah, my father-in-law was saying the same thing. He's tried it, and he's like, "Yeah, you actually end up breaking about 75%."
Yeah.
So that kind of brings me to the well house. There's a well house in the back here. It's no longer used, but it's such a small space that the grout has disintegrated. So
Do we have a
the
picture
blocks
of
are
that
mostly
structure?
loose. Let's see. Yeah. So I
That's
think
the only one.
So you can barely see like the edge of it in this photo here on the left. So I'll say at the bottom, you can see some of the grout there. It's just completely separated. So there's a lot of these blocks that are separated. The grout's not there. You can see the sunlight through. I don't know how, there's a window in this. I don't know how it's even still being held up. But we'd like to disassemble this, the well house, and either rebuild it as a part of the short-term rentals in the back, or what's salvaged, be able to use that for any damaged Bassy on the house that needs to be replaced.
What are the dimensions of that well house?
Patrick, do you know? Is it a 8 by 8?
Well, thank you.
Probably generous 8 by 8. It's not very big.
We're going to knock these out one at a time.
Thank you.
Do you have a forward elevation with the house moved and the Bassy block portion staying where it is, so that
I
we can
have
see what
a-
that looks like?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm so sorry. I have a back elevation of what that would look like. The front elevation, I don't believe the architect got to me in time. See, so this is the back portion. So just about 3 feet of the Bassy block would be exposed from the front, from the main street.
I think it's a wonderful suggestion, Richard, if you want to start knocking them off with a motion.
Well, typically, an addition, which is the Bassy block on this house, would set in and not out. So I guess I'm a little concerned about that. Also, I went by there today, and I'm a little bit concerned if we move too close to the other house, that there's windows on that other house that face your house. And because the historic development of this neighborhood was residential, even though it's C1 now, the zero lot lines, that's not the way it was developed. So I hate to get too close.
Absolutely, because you want to be able to maintain it, and I think that's being a bad neighbor if I go too close. I don't want to be doing a zero lot line right up against their windows. That's weird.
Right.
but I completely agree with you. That's why the 3 feet is kind of the sweet spot.
So
4 feet is too.
Is it currently 7'6"?
Do you have that measurement?
I saw that on the plat.
Okay. Then, oh yes. Okay.
And then you're asking to take it to 4'6", because
Mhm.
that's what it says on the plat. That's
Yes.
not, that's 3 feet, not 5 feet. Is that what you're asking?
We're only asking for 3 feet.
Could you live with 5 feet? Because that's standard residential setback.
So So
6
it'd only
inches
be
less.
moving 2 feet.
2.5. At 2.5 feet to it.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, driving through with my Dodge, it's like 2 inches on each side. It's pretty scary. And the one thing is that life safety, I know, is a really big factor. And I'd hate for somebody, one of our guests, one of our tenants, to run into the adjacent building electrical panels or catch them. It's like that is not good. So that's kind of the main, one of the main reasons we're trying to do this is not only make it safe to go through, but not be able to hook that electrical panel or by mistake.
Yeah. I've only had one person run into my building.
Only one? Oh, God.
I have the same issue on West Main.
Okay. So you feel for me, right?
I feel the pain.
It was a matter of life and death.
Oh.
What are you gonna do if your neighbor to the west builds a fence?
So the neighbor to the west, we would love to build a fence to help hide those lovely sheds that he
No, I mean-
has.
Back where the passing block is, you said you're gonna be varying a little bit.
So we are so with that, I know exactly what you're talking about. So with that, we are planning on building a fence to help with diverting of his granite gravel coming into our area. So we are going to be working with him to build a fence, but it would be farther up. So we are working with him to have that agreement of what that would look like. But yes, we have thought through what if he had a fence, then we're right back to where we were. The good thing about that is that there are at that pinch point that if that fence comes in, is there would not be electrical panels. And that was a major concern.
I guess my general thought is I'd be okay with moving the frame house to the east, but I think the passing block needs to go with it so that we maintain that historic line. So that you do get the space you need and don't get cramped down. We've moved a lot of houses on the lots before. That's been done.
So with that, with the expectation that we're going to be losing a lot of the Bassy block, I know. It's going to add a lot of cost to all of that, and so that's what I'm scared of because it is sad to see it break. So
I know.
yeah.
I guess I probably have a different opinion on that. I would say that if you only moved it 2.5 foot, that would give you basically a demarcation between. Obviously, it was an addition later on, and it really sets off. I wouldn't see that it would be that visible. I mean, you're going to see it, but it's not going to be extremely.
So when you move something like that, do you have to remove and move everything, or do you just remove that one wall and shift? Can some of it stay in place?
No, because of the roof.
What's in that room?
I'd be more concerned about the damage to the Massey block than a couple foot profile difference. That's by that point you're 40 foot off Main. I don't know what's the distance at front elevations.
Yeah.
It's going to be like 3. It'd be different if it were right at the front, front panel. You do have
It's 43 feet to the front of the house, from 43'5" from the sidewalk,
the Massey block houses.
and that's just to the front house. So it's more than that.
So the
so
front of the house is a 40-foot setback.
No.
And my dimension's way off. Sorry about that.
It's probably 40 foot to the back. Anyway, just a different opinion on that. Just the cost of moving the Massey is.
So
What about the return? If you're looking down the driveway where you move the structure back, you have the passing block showing the passing block.
Yes, that is part of what we want to try and use that Bassy block for the well house and actually use that to maintain the kind of corner pieces that are happening. Because there's some of it is like the hand cut look, and then some of it is the scraped.
So you'll make the return.
Yeah. Because we want that front elevation to be beautiful.
Which came first, the Betsy block or the frame? Have you looked?
The frame came first.
Did I send you Sanborn maps on this?
I'm sorry, say that
Did
again?
I send you Sanborn maps? Did I find?
I don't think so.
What's the date on the house?
Out in 1910 era, I believe.
When did Bassey start
It's
manufacturing?
mid-century, or sorry, 19 teens, early 1900s.
It's
They're about the
time. It
same
could have gone
time
either
frame,
way.
yeah.
I mean, it's
Based on, I mean, yeah, they built one room.
Betsy came first, and it would make more sense for it to stand alone.
I guess I've got a little concern on the auxiliary tank house. On other applications, we've been really strict on maintaining those. We've allowed people to move them if it fits better in the plan, but always to remain on location and not just tear it down.
To rebuild it,
And
okay.
so just one view on that would be you can move it, but it's got to stay intact and fit it into your design somehow, because the auxiliary structures really help tell the story of how the property was developed and used. Wouldn't be too keen on just getting rid of it.
Okay.
And I'm not opposed to moving the structure, but to me, the addition, or if it's the addition, is just as important as the original structure. And I feel like by saying we approve it, but we have to move all of it, we're actually approving the demo of it, since everybody's saying it's almost impossible to do. So
Yeah.
I feel like we're indirectly approving a demo.
Are there any items between A and L that we can quickly get off the list and read some of the more,
I don't mind knocking a few out.
just so we know where we're at?
Yeah. So based on the Fredericksburg Design Guidelines and Standards, I recommend approval of items A, H, I, J, and I, with the stipulation that Anna, well, the paint colors are here, so as is.
Is there a second to that motion, which is to approve items A, H, I, and J?
Sorry, and L.
And L. Is there a second to that?
Yeah, I'll second it. Can we add item B to that also?
Yes, if you could add item
Gonna
B
amend the
to my.
motion.
I amend my motion to include item B.
And just to clarify, item H is going back with standing seam with a turned ridge, because it says replacement.
Correct.
Okay, so before we start the discussion, just make sure we're staying on the book. So we have a motion to approve items A, B, H, I, J, and L. Is that correct, Shelby?
Yes, sir.
So, and we have there's a motion from Jessica and the second. No, no. Yeah, the second was Richard. Okay. Now, discussions on that motion.
Yeah, item B, the posts, will they match the existing?
Oh, okay. So for B, which post? Okay, here we go. Please find post. Yes, as close as we can get in a wood. And it's a pretty simplified design, so I'm pretty sure that we can find it.
Just to clarify, your diagram of the project finish shows 2, but you would replace all of them, right?
I'm sorry. I thought that was somebody's cell phone. I forget where we're at. Okay, I'm sorry. Say that one more.
So just to clarify, I know that your project finish picture is not, it's everything isn't just to complete specs, but I wanted to make sure that you're replacing all of those posts because the photo just shows the 2.
Okay. Okay, just pointing to it, do you mean?
On the picture, there's only 2 posts. I just wanted to make sure that they're
Oh,
all
okay.
being
It's just-
replaced and the
Oh, yes,
railing.
yes.
And the
Okay.
railing
I believe
as
it's
okay.
4 posts is what is there. And so if they're rotted, we'd like to replace them. Well, if we replace them, we're gonna have to replace them all so they all match.
Okay. Okay. And the railing too. Like it
And the
wouldn't have
railing
those
too.
openings there
Yeah.
because it's not the way it is now.
It is, this is actually accurate how it is now.
That's the way it looks now.
Mhm.
Okay. I was looking at a picture from page 58.
Other items of discussion for the motion?
I'd be happy to support this motion with the exception of item L, as staff has said that more information is needed on that barn.
I concur with Sam.
You want to amend it?
So is it possible to amend the motion since we're in discussion?
If, Richard, you seconded that motion. If you're both okay, then you can amend the motion and you can re-second the amended motion.
I would like to amend my motion to exclude item L.
I'll second that.
So noted item L is excluded from the current motion, which is to approve items A, B, H, I, and J. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving application 22-110-A, items A, B, H, I, and J, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Those items are approved. So now on to items C, E, F, G, K, and L.
I'm loving this alphabet soup.
Okay. We can take them one at a time, or we can take a few of them. What do you guys want to do? So item C is replacing the existing porch trim with gingerbread. What's your thoughts on that, board? Is there any appetite for that? There's no evidence? Any appetite? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So item E, remove non-original rear addition. Any appetite there? You have no problem with that?
Moving the house 3 feet.
No, it's item E is a non-original rear addition. Can you show a picture of that again? We have that.
Mm-hmm. Slide 59.
So that's the part in black.
It's an L shape. If you zoom out a little bit, there's a floor plan kind of locating in blue. The outline in red is what the addition porch is, and it's, like I said, it's falling off. We'd like to, the area in blue, the square is what we'd like to do with it, is to square it off.
So the item E is just the removal of the non-rear addition. And Anna, is there evidence of that as it was a later addition?
Yes, and it is in bad shape.
So how about a motion for item E?
I'll move, we approve item number E to remove the non-original rear addition based off the condition and its non-historic origin.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion, which is to remove item E, remove non-original rear addition on application 22-11-A? Further discussion? E is an egg. No further discussion. All those in favor of approval of item E, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Item E carries. Item F, would be construct new rear addition, which is the item on blue, is that right?
Correct.
Do we have adequate information as far as what Anna, what they're gonna go back with? So obviously on item F, we'll need some additional details on that. Item G, enclosed Bassy block basement due to years of leakage.
You're gonna keep the vent holes. You're just gonna enclose them.
Well,
Yes.
to me,
Well-
it looks like item G and K are tied together. Is that right? No, excuse me, that's not, I'm not right. That's incorrect. So item G, go ahead.
So with the basement, it's, we have to clean out all the mud that's gotten in there, and do some flashing and fix the windows. But with it staying where it's at, the Bassy block, we're gonna be just repairing what's there and cleaning it up.
So from the outside, you can still see those two windows.
Yes.
I have a question for Daniel and Anna. Do we even have preview over the inside of the basement, what they do with it?
The impact of the exterior, we would. Like if they said they wanted to close up the window or something.
If they want to fill it in?
They do everything too. Inside. You just have to. Those make great wine cellars. So.
I know, right? And actually, my dad was brewing beer down there for a while.
So item G, so the motion would be to maintain the exterior window and formulate that into a motion.
Assuming it stays in the same place.
If we can just knock these off one at a time, we'll go back to the issue about moving. Because we may not get a motion on that. Yeah.
I recommend approving item G based off and with the exception of staff recommendation that the window be retained but covered from the inside.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Not all those in favor of approving the motion to maintain the Bassy block basement window, let them repair. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. That part carries. Now we're to item K, which is demo existing Bassy block tank house and reuse the blocks. Any appetite?
I think that one needs to be relocated on the property.
Formulate that into a motion as a replacement.
I think it needs to come back with a new location.
Okay.
Let's do that. Is that okay? Well,
Absolutely. Yeah. We kind of figured like it could go either way. So it's like if y'all say it's okay, well, we definitely want to reuse the block. It's in great. The blocks itself are in great shape. It's just the grout that's gone.
So just come back to us with a plan before you do anything to that
Yeah,
structure.
absolutely.
So item number L, which is demo the existing wooden barn and reuse materials.
You want to get that one clean? You want to clean up K?
Where we're just not,
Deny the demo.
we don't,
You have 60 days to take action. If you don't take action in 60 days, it's approved as requested. So you can carry to your next meeting or you can take action. If you take action to deny it, though, then I think it would preclude her opportunity to come back with more information at the next meeting. So if you just want to carry this, take no action on it tonight, have her come back with additional information, and then you could take your action at the next meeting. That's one option.
okay. What I think we probably need to clean it up, given there's so many items here, just so there's no misunderstanding later on that we miss it in our agenda. So go ahead.
I also, given the rating of the property, I don't know that you can authorize demo resource unless you make your findings that it's beyond, it's irreparable, so, either way, you probably need more information to do that.
So we can deny that portion of the application tonight.
I think there's two other areas that we should
And,
consider for denying.
Okay.
I don't think we denied C.
Yeah,
with
C
the
we missed.
gingerbread,
Okay.
and there's no evidence that it has existed, so I would propose we.
I was going to include that.
And then the other one is the construction of the new rear addition. I don't think we have enough information to approve that item. So I would make a motion that we deny C, E, and
Not E. E's already.
F. Sorry, yes, F and
Okay.
K and L.
We already did
We already did L.
For K, which, so
Just three.
We
Okay,
can't
so let
discuss
me
that.
repeat.
We're in the middle of the motion.
oh, I'm so
Yes.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
So that motion to deny
Item
Parts.
C,
Which is a gingerbread.
F, which is the new rear addition
Yeah.
for lack of information, and K, demoing the back of block.
to deny those three.
Tank house.
No, ma'am. L was removed from the original motion. Yes. So L is still available for action.
So right now I have a motion to deny parts C, F, and K. Is there a second to
Do you
that?
want to put L on it also?
L has not been captured. No action has been taken on L.
L, yeah.
Then let's include it.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion to remove items C, F, K, and L from Amy for her motion, and the second for that goes to Jessica. Now discussion. You're right. Discussion on those items.
Remove or deny?
To deny. Okay. Deny. Excuse me. So
I just
you're
have,
clear on this.
Sorry about that. So I got confused where we were at. So for K, for demolition of the well house, of course, no. But what if we were to, as requesting, to relocate, as you were saying, relocate on the site? So
You can come back at a later
Yeah.
time and show us what you would,
Okay.
where you would like to move it to,
okay,
and what it should look like.
Okay.
Happy to entertain that at a
All right.
later date.
Yeah, I think all of these things we're willing to entertain. We just need more information, except for C is just is done, unless you find gingerbread photos with gingerbread.
I don't think I will, but
Right.
I will try. But I've already tried. So for L, the barn, I think that's the only thing we haven't really gone in depth about. So the barn, as far as I've been talking with my father, it's not original. What he got from the previous, from the real estate agent when he purchased it was that it was built in about 1960. And so we would like to demolish it, but also reuse that wood within the new short-term rentals.
Have you looked at that barn construction? Okay. So we would, it's okay to come back
Yeah.
and show us some evidence, but we probably need to do a site inspection on it, and just gain a little bit more information on it.
Sure.
But tonight we will be denying it, but please feel free to come back at a later date and. show
I
us
will,
more
but
evidence.
hopefully with less alphabet soup. So.
Any discussions on the motion to deny items C, F, K, and L? Not those in favor of denying those sections, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. So that motion carries, which we're denying those four. What's left?
D.
D. So the application is to move the house 3 feet to the east. There was some discussion to possibly only move 2.5 feet. And there was some discussion not to move it at all. So how would the board like to proceed?
I would like to suggest that we have a site visit to look at the site and try to figure out which one's original and which one's not. And then postpone that to next month. Consider that after we have time to actually get on site properly.
Did the Sanborn maps give us any indication of which structures were first? Or do we need to review those as part of the site visit?
We can review them if it's odd to me that I didn't send them to you. If I would have found them, I would have sent them to you. So, let me
Any
take a
further
look.
review, it sounds like.
Yes.
What about
yes.
actual?
I've not checked.
Okay. There's probably some evidence one way or the other.
I'd also like to see a rendering, an elevation from Main Street with the house moved and the posse block remaining there, just to see, just to get an idea of what that might look like.
For me, they're both historic structures, so I would vote that you don't move it because of the Bassy block vulnerability. And even if you just moved the wood portion, I feel like that would also leave the Bassy block vulnerable to somebody clipping the side of it.
Exactly how I hit for jerks.
Well, during your site visit, I'd invite you to drive through that driveway.
I'm just pointing out the cost is going to be, when you start moving structures that are 100 years old plus, you might think you know what it's going to cost at the beginning, but things can happen as well. So it sounds like that one, we can postpone that item to, or move that to next month's agenda if we can capture that, so we don't. That's what I'm hearing consensus for.
I would make a motion to take no action tonight and put it on your next agenda.
Make a motion to put item, what is it?
That would be take no
B,
action.
to take no action and put it on next month's agenda after a site visit by members of the board.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Not those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. And that motion carries, so we will be taking no action tonight. Moving it to next month's agenda, and board, please be available to Anna to go out for the site visit. So I believe that's all of the items on application 22-110A. Right. Let's move to application number 22-110B, 413 East Main. Ms. Heiner, while you're here.
Okay, while I'm here, let's move on. So this lot is, of course, very, very skinny. So it was very interesting trying to figure out how to do the short-term rentals. So with that, we do have parking that would separate the front structure and the back short-term rentals. We do include a handicap spot. We are looking at building 8 short-term rentals in the back with landscaping, a walking path, and a breezeway down to the creek. And with that, we've got 6 of those would be 2-story single units. Just because of the narrowness of the lot, we had to go up. So this is a good rendering view of it. So with that, the back buildings that are closer towards Barron's Creek, those would be single story. Each one of these units would have a porch on the front, with some landscaping out front, and if available, depending how narrow that porch is going to be, if there's even room for a chair, but it's going to be pretty thin. So with the materials that we're looking at using is doing more of the limestone look, very similar to Blacksmith next door at 415. Yeah, 415. Kind of sitting with their style of what they've done, that cottage German style. And so with that, these units to help with fire suppression, we've connected them, and for each unit we're separating it by a different material. And so the ones on the ends would be the stone, and in the middle, just to provide a little bit of separation setback, would be that slat. The porch slat would be similar that's being used on the house in the front of the property. And so with that, we would have an accent color for that slat on either side of the stone. The single units in the back, or the single story units in the back, that would be our ADA accessible unit back there. See, with that, the area back here, we're looking at doing a gingerbread trim and just a simplified design. Let's see. Beyond that, let's see. So they have a shared walking path. I think that pretty much sums it up. I think that's about it. This one's pretty straightforward. So.
Okay. Anna, you want to give us your findings?
Okay, application 22-110B, 413 East Main, again, CBD zoning. This is going to be behind the main house. Construction of a 2-story STR building with 3 units each and a 1-story STR dogtrot style building with 2 units. I've cited the sections on massing and height, design, materials. The new construction is placed to the rear of the property and is only 4 feet taller than the historic house at the front of the property. The project is broken into 3 pieces to reduce the massing. The materials and design are a blend of contemporary and historic, and staff recommends approval.
Question from the board.
I think it's a great use of space. But I did have a question for Anna, and I don't know if it's our purview, but does this meet the parking requirements for short-term rentals, this many?
So depending on the number of bedrooms within the units and depending on how the applicant develops the overall property, not sure what we're going to do with the main residence in the front, but this would be considered an STR facility, and that requires 60% of the overall occupancy. Staff will review that as part of the site plan review, and we just thought we would knock out these portions first.
Is that a maybe?
Without reviewing the full site, I don't know, but the parking is calculated at 60% of the overall occupancy. Again, not knowing bedroom layouts of the overall development, I don't know.
I mean, my calculation, it's somewhere 16 to 32 occupants.
So each one of these is just 2 people.
Even the 2 stories or 2 people?
The 2-story are 2 people. So it's a kitchenette with a small living area, and then the bedroom and shower are upstairs. Because the lot is so narrow,
Right.
Can't really get much. So.
And I know the regulations call it like 2 plus 2 in a room, so that's.
I mean, it may limit the ability. Their STR permits may be limited to a certain number of occupants based on how much parking they have. So I mean, even if they build it larger than that, they would still be limited based on how much parking they can provide, how many people they can put into each unit.
What's the setback on the side lots?
On the side lots, we are wanting to do, Patrick, if you recall it, that was 4 feet for both. Because I know we were talking about, because Blacksmith has already built a fence, we need to be able to build it and then also be able to maintain it. And so at least 4 feet. And I know the residential code is 5. So we were trying to do at least 4.
I think in this zoning, it's 3 feet if it's combustible, so you should be fine.
Okay.
Because I noticed the windows. Do you have elevations of the exteriors of the buildings?
We do. Yeah, slide 71. It's 70. 70 shows the front and the. Shoot, I think I only did the fronts. I don't think I included the backs.
Right, but do you have elevations of what the neighbors see?
So one of the things with the neighbors is that Blacksmith, beautiful lot. They have hot tubs in the back of their areas. We want to make sure to give their guests privacy. So for the 2nd story, the windows are all higher. Nobody can look out into peeping toms unless they really want to get a ladder and try. The downstairs, there are no windows on that side because you're basically going to be looking at a fence. And that's for both Blacksmith side as well as Buddy Love's side. It's a parking lot. It's not very pretty. So again, just to get that natural light, They're going to be taller windows higher up.
But what's the surface? Is it stone or what is it?
It would be stone.
And what's the material for the parking lot? Is it concrete, asphalt,
We were
crushed
looking
granite?
at concrete.
Concrete.
Yeah, Mr. Rabke did request not granite gravel.
Yeah.
Just to be, I wanted the narrowness of the driveway would not allow for an ambulance to get back there. So he just said, please don't put granite gravel everywhere. So we were looking at doing a pervious impervious mix.
As far as, I love that you just did the upper windows at the top for privacy, but have you considered using, because I assume the 2 are for the bath and then the 3 are for the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Have you considered breaking that up by using the long rectangular ones in?
We can
in
absolutely do
between?
that. It would definitely,
It's
I mean,
just-
the only thing with that, it looks more modern.
Oh,
And so we were trying, again, the German heritage style, and it's like, and I know he's not showing the window mullions in these, but you want to be, I would love to be, as a designer, I want to be more accurate to what the German heritage style is.
Where's the barn in relation to these buildings?
It is, I believe it's located roughly about where this first unit is. Let's see. It's about that first unit on the right-hand side on the plan north. About there.
And just for clarification, we don't require new construction to be to look like the German style. It's
I
supposed to
know,
look
but it's
Friday. Just
with
so you know. I
okay
don't want
with
you
the
to feel like you have
blacksmith
to.
next door. It's so beautiful, and honestly, we want people who are going to stay here. We want them to have an experience. They're only going to be sleeping here most likely because there's really nice wine bars and restaurants down the street. But we do want it to be appropriate. We don't agree with what our other neighbor has, and we don't feel that it's nice. This is an investment property, and we want to be able to be proud of what we put back there, and that's why we're doing the investment of the German heritage style.
I have a question on the windows.
Mhm.
It seems like there are too many and also they seem large.
Mhm.
Maybe if we could decrease the head height of the windows to align with the doors.
I agree with that. Yes.
And maybe have mullions, maybe needs to be double hung windows. And also another way to break up the middle volume, maybe add a second story balcony with railing. And also it seems like the posts are a little bit too small. Maybe they need to be 6 by 6 or 8 by 8. And gingerbread, I'm not sure it's appropriate here. Because it's not historic. And most likely there will be no gingerbread on the front either.
Correct. Mhm.
And these windows on the front elevation, they also seem oversized and and they will be located in the bathroom and shower roughly. Is that correct?
So for this, it would be more of a transom to just bring in the natural light rather than a big old window for somebody to look into.
So given the issues that have thus far been raised, and there might be additional ones, the board might consider doing, possibly just a conditional approval on the layout with some information required before final application, just knowing how projects are and approval. So that might be something to consider if there's some questions.
I would agree with Lillian's comments about the scale and the size of the windows and the post also. So I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve coming back with the suggestions and drawings to include the exterior, the west and the east elevation also.
And of course, you can also add the locations of the auxiliary buildings as for a site plan to that.
Also add the existing tank house to the new site plan.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Any further discussions? Just for clarity, can you redo that, Sheldon?
Richard Laughlin made a motion to provide conditional approval to include east and west elevations, comments provided by the board, and to add the existing tank house to the site plan, seconded by Jessica.
Guidance or discussion?
One other thing, if you're going to do a fence, why don't you get it next time so you don't have to come back?
I'm sorry?
Why don't you include your fence if you're going to do a fence?
Right. So with that, all those in favor of approving the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. So conditional approval to, as far as your layout, but just requires some additional information next go around. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck on the project. Any other items on the agenda? I think we covered them all.
I just have a few questions, and it's not in our purview or anything, but the exit for that, is that, I mean, is there a certain amount of, because there's a lot of people staying back there, is it an emergency issue to get that many people to the front?
She's been working with the fire marshal and will continue to do so. Yeah, the fire marshal has a sign off on the site plan.
Okay. And I didn't know all those buildings were behind Buddy Love. Like, do we know when they popped up?
We approved them.
We did. Okay, I must have missed that one.
2 years ago.
If they're living in an RV, we can send code enforcement out.
Anna, you've got a comprehensive plan update?
Comp plan update, yes. So the consultants will be back in January 2023. The 17th and the 18th. On the 17th, they'll be having a joint meeting with P&Z and City Council. And then there'll be a meeting of the advisory committee, which Richard's on. And then there'll be 2 focus group meetings on the 18th, a neighborhood focus group and a nonprofit ministerial focus group. And then that evening, there will be our first big public open house. So that'll be from 4 to 7. And we've not decided a location yet, but that'll be a come and go style open house. And also wanted to recognize that this is Daniel's last meeting.
Well
Yay
done.
for him, I
Well
guess.
done.
He's like, I'm going too far. But obviously he's been a great asset to this board.
I second that.
And then also Robin Kauser is our new appointee to replace Michael McCree. And so she should be here for the January meeting.
Right. Another item for just housekeeping, thanks to those who attended the meeting we had, the joint meeting a couple weeks ago. If you didn't attend that, Anna can give you the booklet so you can run through that. That was very informative. One of the biggest things that I learned is that we probably these things, if you're on it during the meeting, then they're subject to open records, and so the Open Records Act. So I would recommend either you leave your phone on the corner, turn it off, but if you do choose to use it during the meeting, then that information is subject for others to review. So that was one of the big things I got out of that. Any others that worth you guys saw? You guys live it every day, so.
And for those of you that weren't there, I do have packets.
Oh, you were going to send a link or a note to all of us. There was the what was the training that we all had to do? It was mandatory. Remember that?
Yes, the Open Meetings Act by the Attorney General's office. Yes.
Can you just send individually who needs to still do that?
Yes.
Great. And Daniel, do we have a replacement? Well, thank you for your service to the city, and congratulate you on your new position, service to the county. So.
Big shoes to fill.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. And a second, all those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.